In this video, we get to spend a little bit more time with our favorite Porsche buddy, Jeff. He talks a little bit about one of his most memorable experiences in a crazy test drive with a local personality in an air-cooled Porsche.
I think this is the video where the seed got planted in Jeff.
Check it out. I was in, just for one of my little service checks, and I was just down there kind of, BSing, if you will. And I was talking to the salesman, and I'm looking at this old Porsche, right? Classic Porsche back then, like one of the cars that, I honestly think it was like $9,000. Okay. It was air-cooled 911. It was an SC. Wasn't anything special, except it was low. Like I'd noticed it was low. Like it looked like a cup car. You know how 911 cup cars look like they're scraping? It looked like that, right? Silver. It was a pretty car, but I wanted to see what it was all about. I wanted to experience the whole Widowmaker thing, you know what I mean? Because there was all that stigma around it. And I figured, maybe I'm buying the old one, that kind of thing. So, I told him, hey, I really want to check this car out. I want to drive it. And honestly, I mentioned this to you guys, but like I couldn't let the clutch out properly. Like I could not. The pedals in an air-cooled car hinged from the bottom, and I could not drive the car. I kept stalling the car, and I kept telling him, I'm like, oh, I know how to drive a manual. He's sitting in the passenger seat, and after like 2 or 3 attempts, he literally was like, you're dumb, get out. Let me just show you. Like he was like super frustrated, right? So remember, like this is your sales guy, right? So he jumps in the driver's seat, has me get over in the passenger seat. And he's like, let me just show you. And he takes off, a lot of revs. And I thought he was just showing off. And I didn't understand that little SC, that car specifically, which I could tell you about it. I can show you a picture of it even. But that car had a really light clutch, light flywheel, it had been modded pretty heavily. Okay, so he takes off and he's going to show me what a 911 is really all about. And we go through the 9th South entrance to I-15, which I call the luge. And it's the luge for a reason. There have been cars that have been wrecked on that. And I'm sure Corey can tell you stories
They've
about that.
Those walls.
Yeah. That was my first experience with a 911 where, I understood you do not lift in the corner. It's so opposite of what, me at that point, a very early sports car driver, you do not lift. If you get into a scenario where you're in trouble, you don't lift. And so he just sent it into this first corner, and I remember it being in 4th gear and thinking to myself, I could see the tack, but I can't see the speedo because his hands were in the way. Early 911s, I think they do that on purpose, I swear.
Not to scare the other passenger.
But 4th gear, just tapped out into this corner, and I'm like, we're dying. This is it. I for reals, I really was nervous and scared. And he downshifted, and it was like this. It was so fluid. I still try to drive like that in Penny Joe. I tried to do that same thing, but it was so fluid. 4th gear to 3rd gear downshift, the car starts to oversteer, and then he catches the car in full throttle back up to 4th gear, and I was like, holy cow.
Like an orchestra.
It was, and it was because you've got the sound of the motor, and then you have this click click noise when he's shifting, and I could hear the pedal, and I'm watching his feet. Okay, that's something that
tap dancing?
Shocked me. I'm like, what the heck is he doing? And he's got his right foot's all cockeyed like this, and it looked completely crazy to me. And I said nothing after that. The drive back he was laughing, and I didn't really feel mocked. I was kind of in awe,
right?
Truthfully. My Boxster did not compare to that. My Boxster wouldn't.
Was this your first? What would you say your first real ride in a 911?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was an old car, old car with no power. An SC has 200 horsepower at best.
But ever since that day, you can confidently say that you've driven that 9 South a million times. And we all have. I think we all use that.
It's the best.
It's a
best
fun
entrance.
road.
Yeah.
And I thought I feel like I've driven that road plenty of times. I feel like I drive it well. I know the turns. I remember one day we were at Public Coffee.
Oh man.
And I had my E30.
I remember
which is motor swapped with the E36 M3 motor.
Yeah.
And you hadn't seen it yet. And we were at coffee and you were like, let's go for a drive. Or I said, do you want to drive the car? And you're like, yeah, let's go. So I got in the passenger seat. You got in the E30. This is fast forward to 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of driving experience. I knew you were a great driver. And we took that same route, but I was in the passenger. And it was the same exact experience for me because I remember going through that thing and I've driven my E30 hard, but definitely not as hard as you drove it. And I shit myself in the passenger seat because I was like, this fucking guy's going to kill me. I still got to go to work in an hour. And you drove that night in South Luge in the E30. And from then, I knew you were a good driver, but then I was like, holy shit, Jeff is on a whole other level of driving because I've never driven that car like that. But I felt what you felt probably in the 911.
I appreciate you said that. I got to be honest to you now, Mikey. That's the first time I've ever driven an E30. Like, that was the first
But you've driven a lot of cars.
Yeah, and raced BMWs. But man, that car was something else, man.
That car reminds me of an air-cooled car.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's oversteery.
Right.
And
lightweight. It's light, and the power's up top.
Phenomenal brakes, and you got to wring its neck.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I felt the same way you felt because you scared the shit out of me in that corner.
It's funny to hear about the luge because the thought that popped into my head was I remember going on one of these rallies. I think it was with Ish. There was a bunch of fast cars. And we got onto the luge and we got through the first corner. And I had a Ducati in front of me. And so I got on it. And I think I was in my turbo. And I remember coming down to the first turn. And this Ducati was pushing it way too hard, and he hit the brakes. It was threshold braking, and his ass end got loose, and his ass end was sliding around. And I was like, oh, this is not good.
This is it.
It looked like that guy was about finished. And so anyway, he barely saves it. And I was actually like full threshold braking too. I was like, wow, that corner came up quick. I think a lot of people have had interesting experiences there. So we get through the corner. I come through the corner. I laid off a little bit, and there's just Lambos whizzing by, like zoom, zoom, all these fast cars. My son was with me in the passenger seat, right? And up to that moment, he was into Teslas, and I always wondered why he didn't really get into cars. He was like, "Are you your dad's son or what? What's going on here?" And he looked at me with these big wide eyes, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, Dad, do you guys do this all the time?"
I remember
and his mind was just blown.
Yeah.
And he didn't buy a Tesla. He drives a Porsche now, right?
Yeah.
And he's all about the cars.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You got to have those things that just like hook you. You know what I mean? They just hook you. They change your life, like truthfully, because somebody else like passes something else that they learned down, and you know what I mean, and it's crazy to think, but that's sometimes what it takes. Like, you can't experience every single car. It's not possible. I mean, I feel like I'm trying to, but you really can't experience them and safely, outside. You can experience them a lot better on the track, right? But how do you convey that, and how do other people experience that? How do you communicate to them like that feeling? That experience your kid had, like, he will remember that, and like hopefully he can pass that down too, like or to somebody else. It's like passing a bug. It's like a virus.
Thanks for hanging out till the end. If you're watching this, I really doubt that you even know where that like button is, so push it, subscribe to it, give us some more topics, and make sure you comment.